So now I request our second speaker, who is a very dynamic and young personality, uh, dwelling with the young generation now and solving their issues, Dr. Pushpinder Walia Sharma, who is a principal of BBK DAV College, Amritsar, to discuss her valuable insights.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bala. I hope I am audible.
Yes, yes, yes.
Uh, it's again a great venture on your side to have this wonderful webinar. My topic today is actually directly connected to what you said at the beginning when you were talking about education and the larger perspective and how it can help us to lead a good life, meaningful life, and also connects in parts to what Dr. Vaidya talked about as life lessons that we remember not we were taught in what we were taught in the classroom, but what we learned beyond the classroom, the lessons of life. So I want to talk today about seeking a fuller life through education. And there is a very beautiful concept that I came across in my discussions here in the seminars and in the interactions that I had abroad. And that concept is of educational integrity. So I just want to speak a little bit about what this concept means about educational integrity, or for what that matter, does really integrity have a meaning in education and higher education? Actually, these days, as Dr. Vaidya was also talking about, we are more concerned about having education and getting a good job and thinking of life in terms of a good salary. But that's not really the case. As we know, we see unfortunate news about suicides by all these famous actors or stars who have reached the pinnacle of success seemingly to the outer world. And yet all these tragedies are happening. So definitely there is something beyond worldly success that matters. And that is what education can, in a very meaningful way, give us. For instance, if you think about certain key issues which are an inevitable part of education, that is, what are values and what is value-based education? For this, you know what I'm going to do is, I'm going to, because now I want to make it briefer since we are already almost at 7 p.m. So I would like to divide the discourse into two parts. First of all, I'm going to build a theoretical framework for it. And since I belong to DAV organization, and for more than 2 decades, I have worked in DAV, therefore I'm going to take up the DAV framework as a case study for educational integrity. And for the second part, it's going to be more personal because everybody has a personal journey. Everybody has a personal path in life, and we all learn our own lessons. So I'm going to share a few of those in the second part. But for the first one, when we think about DAV and what its framework is, as we know, it's rooted in Arya Samaj. It is Dayanand Anglo-Vedic institutions. And when we talked about education and having a fuller meaning in life, I think this is a wonderful example of what DAV has done. The DAV vision imbibes the best of both the worlds because it is Dayanand Anglo-Vedic. It is, as you mentioned, Swami Dayanand Saraswati in the beginning, and you know that he was a great reformer of society and a great spiritual thinker and leader. And Anglo-Vedic means that we are imbibing the best of the West, and also our heritage remains very valuable and very precious to us, and our ethos is rooted in our spiritual heritage of the Vedas. So when we talked about Arya Samaj, it is how you can make the society best. Arya is best, and Samaj is society. So when we talked about Arya Samaj in the beginning, and we related it to educational integrity, this is what I want to say, that there are 10 principles of Arya Samaj, and only the first 3 are rooted actually in our search for God. The rest of them, right from the 4th principle to the 10th one, are about what role an educated person or a good Arya should play in society. And that is what leads to a meaningful life. When Swami Dayanand passed away in 1883, his followers wanted to do something to promote his memory and his teachings forever. And what better way could there be than to do something in the field of education? And that is how the first school in Lahore was formed in 1886. And it was a very remarkable young man, Hans Raj, who came forward and volunteered to be the principal of that school, totally without salary throughout the time that he served there. And this remarkable young man later on came to be known as Mahatma Hans Raj. So in a way, proving that you cannot teach just by words, but you have to be a living example for others. So in the remaining principles of Arya Samaj, after the first three, we talked about how an Arya should be ready to accept truth and to renounce untruth, and how all actions must conform to virtue, and how the primary object is to benefit the whole world, and how ignorance must be dispelled, and nobody should be contented with their good alone, but with the good of all. I want to talk about one particular thing. Now, DAV has got more than 900 institutions all over the country. But there is one thing that I want to mention here. Rather, I want to read aloud from the manifesto of Arya Samaj, and how, when DAV institutions were set up, this manifesto, I think, is the most complete statement on education in any ideology in any part of the world. So I'm going to read out from there. It will be conceded by all right-thinking minds that to secure the best advantages of education, it is necessary to make it national and character. No doubt, speaking broadly, the primary aim of education is to develop the mental faculties, to invigorate them, and to practice them by proper and healthy exercise. And education is said to be sound according as it achieves these ends. But however true and incontrovertible this might be in the abstract, this single criterion of education is far from the true ideal of useful education. For it may be taken for granted, independently of theological considerations, that man lives and ought to live not for himself alone, but also for the good of the community in which he moves, and of which by birth, locality, and antecedents, he is a member. This is termed his nationality. In fact, the system of education should be so devised as to strengthen the ties which naturally bind individuals into a common nationality. On the other hand, it is clear that a process of education which tends to loosen these ties or obstructs the beneficent influence of education from being fairly extended to and beneficially operating upon the uneducated must be declared partial and, from the public point of view, undesirable. This actually connects us to what the goals of NAC and UGC now are, and what the vision of the national policy of education is. According to UGC and NAC also, the two major aims of education are contribution to national development, and secondly, inculcating a value system among students by incorporating value-added standard practices in the process of education. I think with this kind of a framework, it is very important that we teach students leadership practices, as we do in our campus in community development programs, and we also teach them strategic planning. So what I have learned as a principal in DAV College Firozpur, as well as in BBK DAV Amritsar, is that it is your community development initiatives that really create all those virtues of humanity that we have been talking about: empathy, humanity, ethics, a sense of compassion, generosity, kindness. All these do come about in a very dynamic way when students interact with the less privileged people, be they old age homes, you find abandoned old people. I remember when we sent our first team out to an old age home, the students came back with tears in their eyes, and they said that, "Ma'am, we are going to ensure that in our life, if we can help it, no old person should ever be abandoned by his children. And definitely we will take care of the older people in our own families." I think this will happen only once they see that thing in reality, when they go and see the situation in the old age home. Similarly, when they go to the slum areas for the community work and they see how those children are struggling to get education, and these our students feel that they are privileged enough, to have a good college and to have all these, good practices here and access to all the latest technology, then they realize that yes, they are privileged. So I think living a situation is definitely more meaningful than actually just being told about it or reading about it. And now, if I want to carry on in this stream, I would like to take a cue from our Honorable President, Sir, in DAV, Dr. Poonam Suri, who comes from a very venerated Arya Samaj family. And whenever he gives a talk, he always ends it or intersperses it with anecdotes from his personal life experiences or from experiences he has learned from philosophers and teachers. So this is something which really touches me. And now I'm going to move on to the second part of my talk, which is about what in my journey of life I have learned about education and about teaching. The first thing that I want to say, and which maybe many of us are realizing now in this COVID situation, is that we must learn to enjoy our own company. If you are frustrated in your own company, then you're never going to find joy anywhere else. And the joy of your own company comes mostly through reading. When I was a child, I used to read one book a day. And reading made my childhood so beautiful. And I want to talk about that now because I'm sure many of you have small children, or many of you are good readers and have these beautiful memories. And I want to talk about how reading shapes you. At least I'm talking about myself, how it shaped my mind, or how it shaped me as a person who I am today. I feel that reading gives a new world to the reader. If you are you, you live only one life. But if you read, you live many lives. I think that's the beauty of it, that when you enter the realm of a book, you enter a different world and you pass through that journey. And when you close a good book after having finished it, it's like you have lived a life. And when you begin another book, it's like leading into another world. So I think that's a very beautiful thing about reading. And when I was a child, what I read really shaped my sense of right and wrong. For instance, I used to read a lot of Enid Blyton. And Enid Blyton, I think, on the surface, these are children's stories, fun stories, adventure stories. But if you read, between the lines, she's also talking about what is good, what is bad, what is truth, what is not truth, in the sense that what are the good practices to follow in life. One should be good, one should be kind, and all these kind of things come out naturally in the stories. So that is something which is happening unconsciously. When a child is reading, the child is forming a value system at the back of one's mind. And I think reading is something that every parent should encourage a child to do. As they say, there is no app better than a mother's lap. I think every mother should make it a practice to read to her children. And when the children grow up, I think they become avid readers and they become avid thinkers. Another thing I learned through my reading is that reading gives you a lot of understanding about human nature. I think literature and psychology are so very closely connected. I think Shakespeare was one of the most wonderful psychologists that have ever been there in this world. If you read his characters and you study his characters, you find that, he really delves into the human mind. For instance, I mean, if he's talking about human dilemma and he's talking about Hamlet, and Hamlet is talking about to be or not to be, that is the question about, how difficult it is to take these, life-changing decisions, you find that, yes, that's true. If you read Robert Frost, The Road Not Taken, you find out again something about human nature. decision. And yes, I think Dr. Bhalla, you were talking about how teachers today are unfortunately into teaching by chance, not by choice. There is a very beautiful poem by Frost when he talks about when my vocation and my avocation, make one in sight, just like my two eyes do, then, that is the real profession, in the sense that if I am, whatever I'm doing for a vocation is also what I like to do as a passion, then I think that passion and that vocation, the mingling of that makes my life so beautiful and makes it very, very meaningful. If we are teachers, we are in education in some way or the other, and we love it. We love being here. We love communicating to our students. We love touching and shaping their minds and involving them. I think that makes the journey of every educationist very beautiful and very rich. Again, something that talking about humanity came to me was that, a couple of months back, I think maybe 1.5 months before the COVID crisis started, we had this very beautiful experience of organizing an international conference on Guru Nanak Dev Ji's philosophy and teachings. And it was an ICCSSR sponsored conference. And we had the funds, but not that many, that we could sponsor too many international speakers. So we had these two American professors who wanted to come from Brigham Young University. And we had this lady teacher who wanted to come from Germany, but we could sponsor only one of them. And we told very politely to the American professors that, we do not have the funds to sponsor you. You will be surprised. Those people from that far off, they said, and they had absolutely, one of them had not been to India at all. And the other lady had also been there just once. So both of them, they said, we don't want any money. We don't even want that you should cover our journey from Delhi to Amritsar. We just want that we should reach Amritsar and be a part of this conference and learn something about the wonderful spiritual Guru, Guru Nanak Dev Ji. That was such a beautiful thing to say. And then there was this one American couple who said very humbly, can we just come and listen? We just want to learn more about the Sikhs and the Punjabis and their culture. Such humility. And there must be something that we are all doing right here in India or in our culture that, this reaches out to people at large in the world. And I felt in the conference, I really felt that like Guru Nanak Dev Ji had gone out to the, so many different of the world to spread the word of God. Now that it was its conference, people from all across the world wanted to come and attend. I think that was so beautiful. So this is what real education is. When you open the horizons of your mind and you let the whole world come in, I think that is what really matters. Another thing which I would like to talk about is about what has this COVID crisis really taught us. This is, again, connecting to what Dr. Bhalla said initially about how we all seem to have joined some rat race, in society, how one person wanting to, outdo the other. One thing that COVID, I feel, has taught us all is steady the pace and lead the race. Just steady, steady, steady. And this actually thought came to me that John Donne, the famous English poet, once talked about society. And he said, it's a very famous quote actually by him, no man is an island. In England, there used to be a practice especially in the villages, in the churches, that if somebody died in the village, the bell in the church would ring in the evening. It would toll in the evening. And everybody in the village would then know that somebody's died, and they would ask each other, for whom is the bell tolling? John Donne wrote something beautiful on that. He said, no man is an island. We, all of us, are a part of one another. And therefore, he said, whenever one person dies, it's a loss for all of us. And he said, never ask again for whom the bell tolls, because it tolls for thee. It tolls for you. It tolls for you and me. I think in the COVID crisis, we have all learned this, that no one exists as an independent entity. We are all connected. And this world is not created just for us. It is created for all creatures, big and small. They have as much a right to it as we have as human beings. So when Guru Nanak Dev Ji talked about Sarvatta Bhala, or when in the Vedas they talk about Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinam, now we have learned that these are not just words. If the whole world prospers, or if the society around me prospers, only then I prosper. If the world around me is healthy, only then I am healthy. If the world around me is sick or tired or ailing or infected, how can I be safe? I think this is the most clear lesson that has come to us. You know, all these thoughts, they come to you when you read, when you introspect, and it's a sad thing that has happened, COVID. But on the other hand, I think it has also taught us to think, to stop. It's like a pause button on life. You know, I really felt when this happened, and I'm sure so many of you must have felt the same, that the pause button had been pressed. And all the countries in every part of the world, people had to pause. They had to think. They had to sit with their families. They had to reconnect with their old bonds, human relationships. They kind of got a new life. And all of us also, like Dr. Vaidya was saying, that this COVID has taught us about how challenging things are. But I think it's also talked to us about how opportunities are there. So many opportunities are there for us. Webinar is one part of it. All these things that are happening, we are listening to one another, talking to one another, communicating to each other, with each other. All these things are now part of the new normal, you know, what you call it. This is the new normal that we want, because human beings, as Dan said, they are not islands. They have to connect. So this kind of interaction that we are having now through this webinar is also a need for human interaction. We all need one another. So this lesson, I think, has been driven home by the COVID crisis. And another thing that I think about education is, when we talk about the suicides happening or the bad things happening, people destroying themselves or people destroying others, terrorism, I think we have underrated the spiritual power of humanity. We have underrated the power of our scriptures and of our teachers, and who taught us about these values and about, you know, whatever spiritual leanings each of us may individually have. But we have learned now that we need to tap that inner strength. What is spirituality? It is what your inner strength is. It is what makes you gain confidence in yourself, in your life. It is what teaches you to be positive about life. I think that needs to be tapped. And if we are spiritually strong, means our inner strength is there, then of course we are there to face every situation. Otherwise, people whose roots are not strong, we have seen that, you know, they will crumble under any pressure. And we have to teach ourselves, we have to teach our students that their roots should be so strong that they may go anywhere in the world, and maybe in whatever situation they are, they have to give it their best. They cannot give up without a fight. And I think they should not give up ever. And that is, I think, what all these situations that are being created around us are telling us. There's a very nice song that we have in our college. When we install the Students' Council, we sing this song. We call it the Mangal Kamna song. And it talks about Akhand Jyoti Gyan Ki, Sada Jale, Sada Jale. You know, it talks about how the light of knowledge should always burn bright. And there's a line in that which says, Jeevan mein jab bhi andhakar ho, you know, you should take the support of this light. And I think that is so true, because whenever you feel that life is all darkness, there are only bad things happening. You need to break that chain and either read something nice or see something nice, and meaningful, or you have to break that chain of negative thinking. And on a larger level, you will see that girls, especially, women and girls, they have encountered so many social obstacles and social deprivation through education. If we are anywhere here today, we are because of education. How can a poor girl in society rise today? By education. She can become anything. There is no barrier. She can touch the skies. There is no barrier to it. So I think education in so many ways is strength, it is power, it is your spiritual strength, it is your inner power, and it also is a wonderful connection to spirituality. So I think COVID crisis has really unleashed that inner potential in all of us. We did not realize that we were so strong. We did not realize that we had so much within us to keep us going. And the times ahead may be difficult, but all of us will get through it, will pass through it. It is time actually to bring back that sense of humanity, to bring back that compassion, and to know that we all belong to one another and that we will all survive through it. I think education in that sense is the real power. Thank you so much for having me here. It was wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pushpinder Walia ji, for giving right insight at the right time now. Because both of the lectures, Dr. Vaidya's discourse and your discourse, need more readings, because this is not going to that we are here just heard about all these things and now we should forget. We should listen it again and again. And after 1 hour of this lecture, you can see it on our YouTube channel. This will be available on that. We must listen again and again. You have given the rightful strategies for that, that we have to improve our educational integrity.